Hello, I'm Dr. Bernstein. Welcome to Bernstein Test Prep. You're watching this video because you or a family member or a friend would like to become the Chicago firefighter. Most of you were told by a Chicago firefighter or Chicago police officer to go to a Bernstein seminar. Now, the information that I'm about to share with you is going to be particularly valuable towards achieving that goal. This is one of the most competitive fire entry jobs in the country. It also has one of the most difficult tests in the country. Thousands and thousands of people will be taking this exam. Now, out of that group, 50% typically fail this written test battery. And I can assure you that after you attend the Bernstein training program, you will be fully prepped before your exam. Now, today, I'm going to be talking to you about the test that you have to take and how you can best prepare for it. Before I talk to you about the test, let me tell you first a little bit about myself and what we offer at Bernstein Test Prep. Now, I've been operating Bernstein Test Prep, which is a nationwide test preparation company, for the past 30 years. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and one of the things that psychologists do is they develop exams similar to the one that you're going to take. Now, I've already trained thousands of people from around the country for their entrance exams to become firefighters. I've also trained thousands of firefighters already on the job for their promotional exams to become lieutenants, captains, battalion chiefs, deputy chiefs, and chiefs. And what I'm about to tell you is extremely important. It could make the difference in getting the job that you want. Now, you're going to want to pay close attention to what I'm about to say. As I mentioned, the truth is, around the country, over 50% of the people who take these types of entrance exams fail. They fail the test. And they usually fail or get a low score due to the fact they just don't understand the different sections of the exam. It simply comes down to people not being fully prepared on test day. Now, the opportunity to take this test in Chicago only comes up every 7 years. So you need to have a high score to be considered first to get in the door to take that physical. So you don't want to miss your chance by not preparing for this exam. Let me tell you a little bit about the firefighter exam and what it usually includes. Now, the city traditionally gives a comprehensive written test battery, and this test battery typically includes hundreds of test questions. It has many different sections. I'm going to break those sections down for you on this video. Now, some of the commonly tested areas include personality. Now, there's a personality assessment which is designed to reveal aspects of an individual's character or psychological makeup. Now, by gaining insight into a candidate's personality, it's possible to identify which candidates will be a good fit for the fire service and which ones will not. Now, in the seminar, we're going to give you a practice personality assessment that I developed over 30 years ago. And what we want to do is get a feel for your strengths and weaknesses in your personality ahead of time. The next section is called Biographical Data. Now, a biography is a person's life history. And what is now called biodata began about 100 years ago as a method for evaluating the information on job application forms. Job application items such as employment history, job experience, and education were compared with later job success. Now, biodata can thus be used to create a life history profile to describe the relevant aspects of background information of successful workers. We're going to spend a lot of time on biographical data, and most test makers, I should say, recommend that you do your own personal history assessment to gather all these areas up before you actually have to take that part of the test battery. Next section that is frequently tested on most comprehensive test batteries for fire entry is reading comprehension. Now, that involves the ability to analyze written communication, which may be a full page on the test, or could even be more than a full page, and to ascertain the meaning of different sentences, phrases, paragraphs, and it's normally put to you in a story format is how it's given to you. Now, I think we'll all agree that firefighters need to be able to understand what they read, and that includes things like rules, regulations, procedures, policy. You need to be able to thoroughly comprehend all of these areas and more. You got to get through the fire academy. And then once you're out, you have all kinds of ifs to publication materials. You have to be able to read and comprehend it. That's why it's tested so frequently on fire entry exams. Another category that's tested very, very frequently is effective expression. And that involves the ability to understand and spell words, to differentiate synonyms, its knowledge of grammar, it's writing clear and concise thoughts, putting items or time sequences in order. This area measures how well you can communicate with people in writing. So you're typically given written statements to analyze, and then your task is to pick the one that best communicates the desired message. So firefighters need to be able to effectively complete reports, memos, emails, as well as other documents. And you're tested on those areas in the entrance exam. And we're going to show you practice items that are similar to the kinds of things that regularly come up on exams. They're not the same, it's not exact, but it's somewhat similar to what you see on these types of exams. Next area is called the logical ordering of facts. And this is the ability to follow rules and steps to achieve maximum results. Now, on the exam, you may be shown, as I mentioned, rules, regulations, or procedures, but in this part of the test, you're asked to apply them in the most logical and appropriate order. So an example might involve the first thing you would do, the second thing, the third thing, the action you would take upon the arrival at an accident scene. Or you might respond to a high-rise fire or have a medical emergency. Now, we have a cadre of fire instructors that are second to none. And we're going to go over with you in the seminar those procedures specific to different types of situations that firefighters are involved in. And we're going to show you in the seminar the first thing that should be done, the second thing, the third thing, and get you very, very comfortable. So no matter what type of procedure you're shown on test day, you'll know exactly what to do. You'll know which one comes first, which one comes next, and you're going to be shown how to figure those things out at the seminar. Next category that is often assessed in these types of entry exams is called problem recognition. Problem recognition is essentially what it says there in that title. It involves the ability to recognize that a problem exists and the types of issues that it could involve. You should be concerned about things in the fire station, right? So inside the firehouse, there's conflicts between firefighters. When you're on the fire ground, you could be in a certain type of fire situation, and you have to be able to recognize, okay, what's the problem here? Where's the fire located? Where is it going? What are some of the risks, the hazards? You might be placed in a medical emergency on test day. They may ask you what needs immediate attention, which area requires immediate attention. So problems arise every day in the fire service, right? So being able to identify them is important. And one way the exam may test problem recognition is to provide you with statements from witnesses to a fire. It could have been an arson fire. It could have been a boat fire. It could have been a house fire, a vehicle accident where a victim is describing to you what happened. And they may ask you on test day to analyze the different statements for conflicts and to find common ground. So witness number 1 told you this, witness number 2 told you this, witness number 3. You got to identify where the conflict areas are. They may also ask you on the exam to identify the most serious problem or which issue should be handled first. Now that requires training in situational judgment, and our instructors are going to train you on how to proceed and how to analyze all these different areas and figure this thing out. Because we realize not everybody has firefighting experience. So rest assured that in the seminar, we're going to go over all these commonly occurring situations, and when that test is given, you're going to know exactly what to do. Next category is called deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning. Now, this is frequently tested and is described as the ability to apply general rules and regulations to specific cases and to proceed to logical conclusions. So those general rules and regulations we're going to cover. These are things that come up routinely on exams, and they come up on exams because they occur on the fire ground. Now, also on the exam, some policies, rules, and regulations, as I mentioned, may be provided to you, right? So you may be asked to apply them to the specific situations. They can give you scenarios as well. So in class, we're going to give you practice scenarios. Now, in these scenarios, on the real exam, you're typically asked to determine which scenario correctly links to a certain procedure or rule. So an example might be they provide you with the fire situation or whatever type of emergency. Now you got to identify what specific type of nozzle is appropriate, what rescue tool you might use in that scenario, what ladder you might place in that given situation, or what rope you might be called upon to use in that particular situation. So all these things are the things that firefighters do every day in the real world, and that's why the test makers will always create situations that occur in the real world, essentially to see how your reasoning ability is, how your judgment is. Can you figure out what the problem is? How do you handle it? Next category that's oftentimes assessed and evaluated is called inductive reasoning. Now, inductive reasoning is a little bit different than the deductive reasoning component, and is best described as the ability to identify a rule, procedure, policy, or a guideline that addresses a specific situation. Now, these rules and procedures, we're going to give them to you on the day of the exam. They're practice rules and procedures. We're going to provide them to you on the day of our exam prep, I should say. Now, these types of questions measure your ability to analyze and link multiple pieces of information. So on test day, they give you multiple pieces of information. What do they typically do? You may be given information in the form of a paragraph, a chart, tables, reports. All these things have been tested in the past. All these things occur on the job, and we use these quite frequently in our training program. Now, an example might be determining the cause of a fire and where it got started. So you're on the scene of a fire, and you might have to analyze and look at, all right, where did the fire start? What type of fire was it? Was it an electrical fire? How was it caused? All these things are included in the scenario fact pattern, and you got to figure it out. Also, sometimes recognizing a common theme in certain situations is a component of inductive reasoning. Now, we're going to make sure, again, at the seminar, we're going to show you how to handle each of these areas in a proven way that's easy to understand. Our guys and ladies that teach for us make it simple. They make it so you're able to understand it, and they explain it so you can get the maximum amount of points. Now, after the written test battery, those that score high enough and are picked to continue on, the next part is the Candidate Physical Ability Test, or Cpat. Now, the Candidate Physical Ability Test, or Cpat, there's information on the web about it, and if you Google it, you'll see that the fire department in the past has made up videos. So there's sample videos that you can watch. They update it from time to time. So you want to look for the latest information that's presented. And I can tell you that those that score high on the written part of the exam will be the first ones to advance to the Cpat. Some people do fail this part, so we are going to talk about it in the seminar. So I can tell you the Cpat in the past consisted of 8 physical tasks that simulate the actual job duties on the fire ground. So there's 8 different physical tasks that they put you through for the Chicago Firefighter entry exam. And again, once you make it through, obviously you need to have a high enough score. You need to be picked first, and those that get picked first have the opportunity to participate in these 8 physical tests. Now, the first one is called the Stair Climb. Now, clearly, you got to get in condition for these exercises because they are not easy. You have to get in condition for these physical exercises. So, the first one is the Stair Climb, where they're going to simulate that stair climb. Next one, number 2, is called the hose drag. All these are simulating what happens out in the real world. Number 3 is the equipment carry. They're going to be simulating your ability to carry a certain amount of weight. Number 4 is called the ladder raise and extension. These are all tasks, I think we'll all agree, that any firefighter needs to be able to do. Number 5 is the forcible entry. Number 6 is search. Number 7 is rescue. And number 8 is the ceiling breach and pull. All of these areas, as I said, have been areas that have been tested in the past in this Cpat. And you'll want to definitely get in shape for it, prep for it. I know many of you are in shape already. Some of you are not in shape, and you know who you are, right? So you know that you need to start getting in shape. The worst thing that could happen is you do well on the written test battery. They call you for the physical, and you fail the physical. That's absolutely the worst possible thing. So you want to be ready for all parts of the exam. Now, there's another part of the hiring process that I want to talk about now. It's called the background investigation. And sometimes people will do well on the written test battery, they do well on the physical, and they fail the background. So at the seminar, we're going to review the different parts of the background investigation. And actual background investigators will be at the seminar to discuss the concerns that you have about your background. And they'll be able to answer your questions personally. They're going to give you guidance and direction on how to respond to any of the areas you're concerned about in your background. Now, we do understand people have concerns about things they've done, right? People have made mistakes in their life. Nobody's perfect. Some things will exclude you from becoming a firefighter in the city of Chicago. Other things that you might have done or have in your background, regards to your personal history, you're going to have to explain potentially. So our background investigators will go over those areas with you. They'll explain to you what you need to say specifically to explain yourself when the time comes and you're asked questions about yourself. Now, some departments also have an oral interview component where you're asked specific questions in an actual one-on-one interview. Now, once the background investigation is complete, candidates may have to go before what they refer to as a candidate review board. And it's usually made up of different firefighters, bosses within the fire service, sometimes civilians. It's a mixed group, and they ask you specific questions. Now, during this seminar, we're going to review questions that are typically asked. And again, you don't want to make it all the way to the end and flub the oral interview, so we will have you also fully prepped and ready for all these different sections on the exam. Now, when you take a Bernstein class, there's several things that are going to be happening. You're going to learn a proven strategy for scoring high on each section of the exam. So all those sections that I just talked about, we're going to give you a specific strategy for each one of them. You're also going to get a book that's relevant for your specific test. So I put a book together that's specific for your exam. I put practice items together. And remember, they're going to be somewhat similar to what's on your test. They're not going to be the exact test, right? That's not appropriate. But they are going to be somewhat similar, and you're going to have a chance to practice with items that are somewhat similar, so when the real test comes around, there's nothing you're going to be surprised about. You're also going to have access to the Bernstein online learning platform for extra practice questions, and that's after the seminar. So you'll have access to the online platform. There'll be extra practice questions that you're going to be able to take, and you're going to have a good opportunity to punch up your score that way. And finally, you have access to me, Dr. Bernstein. Any questions that you have leading up to your exam, you can email our office, and we will always get back to you. Now, if I don't know the answer, I may give it to a fire chief to respond back to you, or a fire captain or a fire lieutenant. Somebody will get back to you with an answer to your question. Now, after attending our seminar, I can assure you that you'll be fully prepped, as I mentioned, for all sections of your exam. Now, you can sign up on our website at bernsteintestprep.com to attend our training program. And if you have any questions, you can always call our office or email us. Now, our email is info@bernsteintestprep.com. That's info@bernsteintestprep.com. Now, I hope you found this video to be helpful. I'd like to wish all of you the best of luck on your exam. And I assure you that if you come to a Bernstein class, your score on your exam will definitely go up.